Welcome, supers, to this Biz Coach interview. I got to come up with a better name for this. I think it's Tales from the Tank, if you will. That was the name that one of our other Shark Tank previous businesses that were on the show had given the name Tales from the Tank. So that might stick. If you like that, let me hear in the comments below if that name works and sticks. We have a special guest here today. We're live doing this interview, so please feel free to drop in the comments your questions, your reactions, your thoughts, and don't forget to hit that the like and the share button below so we can get this video into the hands of more super entrepreneurs like yourself. So I have the pleasure of having the Dynosafe business, the owner, Rebecca Romanucci. I knew I was going to mess up the name just by trying to second guess myself, here in this interview with me to talk about her experience and all the emotions and everything that's happened before, during, and after her Shark Tank experience, to see, if it's lived up to her expectations and things of that nature. So please feel free to drop in the comments where you're listening from, what you're up to, and any questions that you have, and I'll get them up here on the screen for Rebecca. So right now, I need some super claps in the chat for Super Rebecca Romanucci. What is going on, Rebecca? How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored.
I am honored to have you here. This is great. It worked out so well. I was like literally cleaning out my garage yesterday, and you're messaging me, and I'm like, all right, yes, I want to do this. We gotta make this happen.
Yeah, it's super exciting because I look at your podcast all the time, and what you the way that you discuss the show as you're seeing it for the first time is incredible, because to me, when I saw you doing that, it gave me the sense of this is what people think when they were watching it, because I already knew what happened. So it's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I have had so much fun putting these Shark Tank and these Biz Coach Reacts videos, Shark Tank, The Profit, Undercover Billionaire, and what was it, a Bar Rescue together. And I'm even doing business ones like just normal business ones, business reviews, basically reviewing their footprint on the world. So it's been so fun. I'm so glad that you've appreciated them, have enjoyed them, like so many other people seem to have as well. So for anyone who doesn't know Dynosafe, why don't you give a quick synopsis of what Dynosafe is?
Sure. So I came up with the idea when my husband was on one of his military missions, and when he returned, I noticed a lot of the veterans suffering with PTSD and other disabilities that made it hard for them to go to the grocery store or a pharmacy. So I thought at that time there needs to be a solution. And I sold my prior business to fund Dynosafe. What it is a temperature-controlled container that secures your port. It's IoT smart, so it has a smart lock. You can adjust the temperature, and it secures to your home. So you can receive all deliveries. So anything you normally order, but because it is climate controlled, you can now order things like groceries and medication, and have peace of mind that it's going to be protected at the right temperature for your use and to eat later. So that's Dynosafe.
Yeah, I think the idea is great. I think that there's definitely, and I said this in the reaction video. If you haven't watched the reaction video, you should definitely get subscribed. Go check it out in the uploads or the Biz Coach Reacts playlist. And I think I think there's definitely a market for it. I think it makes sense for some people, not for everybody. People that stay home all the time, like I wouldn't necessarily have a use for it. But people that have medications, people that aren't necessarily home, I think that there's definitely a market for that. Especially in the medications where I was gonna say frozen, but the cold, temperature controlled medications make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Even if you're working at home or you're going back to work after the pandemic at this time, people don't like waiting around at their house for their delivery. So if you are a person who orders groceries online, I'm on an interview or in a meeting, I don't want to hear the doorbell, hear my dogs barking, have to get up, go get my groceries, whatever that delivery is. So whomever is making that delivery, they already have a code. They see the container, put the code in, put the things inside, and it automatically adjusts to the preset temperature. And I get an alert. Even Alexa will say, your groceries are here. So I can get them when I want, So, a lot of people are having to wait for like 2-hour customer driven delivery windows. And they feel like prison, like waiting for the cable guy type of thing. Remember those days? So this gives people freedom to actually go do what they want and not have to be stuck at home waiting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, so how did you end up like the Shark Tank experience, right? How did you wind up saying, you know what? I think I want to throw myself to the sharks or ourselves to the sharks and make this happen.
There's many reasons to go on Shark Tank. If you have sales going on, of course, you're going to have a huge increase in publicity and sales when it airs. In our case, we're pre-revenue. So it was a platform for us to use to get awareness and kind of get the word out. My goal was to have a lot of customer reaction, a lot of people saying, hey, I want one and I want it now. How can I get it? Where can we get it? And so that'll help me with this next step of actually finishing the manufacturing process and bringing them to the market. So that process started a year ago. And you apply and you go through certain steps. It's a very long process. I think in my case, it was a lot like what I call Mr. Toad's Wild Ride for a year. It's like every step you can, every step you're like, are they going to drop us? Are they going to drop us? Because every time they interact with you, they're telling you this doesn't mean you're going to air. And some of the things that I can say that are, it's already public. 40,000 people apply every year to be on the show. So it's like being in an auditorium of 40,000 people, and 80, 100 people a year actually air. That's pretty, unbelievable.
I'll tell you that to go along with that, I think it's impressive that they are able to air as many episodes as they do a season in general. Because at 4 pitches, and each pitch, from what I've read, is anywhere from like 45 minutes to an hour and a half. That's a lot of time for those 5 people to be committed to just sitting in front of, even just one episode is 4 pitches. So 4 hours for
That's
that.
right.
I mean, it is an intensive amount of, filming going on for that. And then to have that many businesses, I mean, fortunately they have that big of a pool to work with, but so even to have the team to like whittle it down to just the, 80, 90, 100 pitches a season is, I mean, that is a task in and of itself to be able to take on. So, kudos to them both the Sharks for being able to film that many episodes, and then, the team for finding that many businesses and put, bringing them through the process.
Yeah, it's enormous. I can't imagine being one of the Sharks and having to listen to that many pitches because they don't air them all either. So, they're listening to a lot more. If I had one piece of advice, I guess, is when you apply, stick with it, like really put everything into it. And if you, get just one contact back after you do the first interview, consider that wonderful, because many people don't even get contact back from them. So that's a huge step. I'm telling you just things that are already public because I'm not supposed to really be talking about Shark Tank, but it's definitely a process. It's 50% about your business and then 50% about the story. And so, you have to have both. And you see that when you watch the show. You see, tell me about the business, and then how did you come up with it? What was your motivation for this? And, you have to have a story. And if you don't, I think they encourage you to, they do things that make it more interesting, like, change your lines and, at the last minute and things like that. And which, you walk out there and you're nervous, and then you're doing your very best. But I think in order to do well on Shark Tank, you have to be able to bounce back. You have to tolerate them talking over each other. They deliberately are messing with you, and you work so hard to get there, and so you're just like, okay, wait, give me a second to say what I came here to say. And so it's fun, it's exciting, it's also just, oh my gosh, very emotional.
So I'm curious, what like when you were working on your pitch, that when you were meeting like with producers and stuff like that. Now, obviously, I know there's only so much you can go into, but I'm curious on your end, how much of the original pitch that you worked on to show to the producers ended up being as part of the pitch that made it to TV all that time later?
Well, the Dynosafe was actually shown. It's like
that has to be nerve-wracking, right? Not having the thing, like, okay, imagine
yeah,
there's a box here and like there's a
yeah,
number pad, like
yeah. So but that's what they do. Every year. It's pretty much the same producers if you look at the credits.
hmm
They've been there and they've won awards, and they're awesome. So I just had the faith that they know what they were doing. They know what's going to be good for the show, and you go with it. There are people who don't, and I think it ends up not working out so well for them.
So I mean, you worked like your original pitch. You worked pretty hard on it, I imagine, because
Mhm.
that's a difficult thing. I've always, because like there was a time where I almost was going to go with one of the business clients that I work with onto Shark Tank, and one of the things I was always kind of curious about was like, how much time do you have, like, do you put towards the pitch, making that like a thing versus like still operating the business and still getting the day-to-day things done?
Yeah, no, you've got to accept that it's going to be a lot more work. So, there was no vacation this year, but it was pandemic anyway. So obviously it was many days I didn't get much sleep. And when I was sleeping, I was thinking, what else can we do? So while working on the pitch, you're still having to run the business, but you're also providing them tons of information about your business because, again, it's 50% of each.
I also, I guess if you're able to answer it, I'm curious, does the whole pitch make it into the TV show, or do they chop that up too? Like, or do they just be like, hey, you have 60 seconds. I don't know how much you could say or not say, but I'm just curious if we're always seeing the whole pitch, as a rule of thumb.
Right. Um, I honestly don't know the name about that for everybody else. I honestly feel they do such a great job when I'm watching the show that it looks like that was the pitch. That's the way it was supposed to be. Now, for me, it didn't end up that way.
Okay.
And they showed that. And, I got to say, I really don't know what happens for other people, but the final say is with them, and you give
And
them
the
the right to
editors,
do
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying. They gotta, as an editor, as a fellow editor, I know it's tough to. You gotta, even as a editor that's like literally as a working as a machine. There's always these different things, but having that experience to know what works and what doesn't work. I mean, I've watched almost every episode of Shark Tank to date. Now a lot of them I've watched years and years ago in the past at this point, but I've picked up on little edit issue, like little things where it's like you can hear other people talking in the other person's mic that they didn't
Yes.
quite, close the circuit or whatever to turn that off. But so yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot in the editing. Now, one thing I don't know if you can answer this question. Were you able to watch other people's pitches while you were there, or were you like in a green room prior to like getting to walk out?
So yeah, they keep you pretty separate. I think
Oh,
there's
okay.
many reasons if you think about the psychology behind that.
Mm,
Definitely, especially after you pitch, you're separate because I think if you just think about psychology, I'm not saying what happens, but
yeah,
your
yeah.
your feelings, your emotion kind of spread, and fears, all of that kind of stuff happens. So beforehand, but you know what, it was coronavirus for me, so we were definitely separate. But from what I've read in public publications, is that they keep you separate. You don't watch them pitch at all. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So that's also good from a uh people leaking other people's pitches ahead of time,
Yeah.
ahead of
Right.
time. So I guess it does make sense. Plus you have less people coughing and stuff in the background. If you're off, like even if you're off set but further back and that kind of thing. So let's talk about as much as you can about the experience. Now, I read that they had all of the pitches and everything, filming take place in Vegas this year, most likely because their rules were probably a lot easier to get around than, LA in California. If I had to guess, it was probably a lot easier for them to do it and not have the issues. So, did they make you quarantine at all, or take like a vaccine? Well, a vaccine. I don't. When you filmed, that didn't even probably exist yet.
Yeah. So vaccinations weren't available. They film it months before. I'm just kind of telling public information. So, you film 3-4 months before, and if you look online, you'll see when they actually usually film. It's like September before basketball season picks up. So. For obvious reasons. Yeah, they were really great at having implements in place to make sure that we followed the guidelines to protect from the coronavirus.
Yeah, I mean that's all. I mean, if they did, if you had to quarantine that, I mean usually that's 10 to 14 days, is the going, quarantine rate for most Americans and people on planet Earth in general.
Yeah.
I mean that's a long time if they made you do that, and I mean for safety reasons, obviously it would make sense for everybody's safety, but I mean I'd imagine you'd be at a hotel at that point, because you wouldn't quarantine and then fly unless they're sending out private jets to everybody. Like,
yeah,
it's not.
Yeah. No, I mean, for everybody's safety, the crew, the sharks, everybody, they have to make sure that you're following the quarantine rules, because you know how easy it is as a human to say you're doing something and then sneak out for one thing. And so they had to really be careful for everybody's sake.
Well, we saw that with the NBA, when they were in the bubble in Disney. There was a couple people that tried to sneak people into the bubble, and it just doesn't end well.
What you're saying right there is really good. Yeah, there's no shortcuts. So you make a mistake, you're going home.
Yeah.
So you gotta know that.
Well, it puts everybody at risk, and like you said, not just the sharks, and it's the whole crew and the other people that are there to pitch, and
Right.
that are taking time away from their businesses. Now, if you were to have to do I put myself in those shoes where I think like, okay, could I run my business for 13 days from a hotel like halfway across the country? That's that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. So, you have internet access, you have your phone, they're really good to give you what you need.
That's good.
And yeah, trying to, I think that they were very aware that it's an unusual situation, and they were very kind to do their best to help.
That's great. That's great to hear. So let's move on to the actual show and what you are able to, what you're able to talk about. So I mean, in the episode, now, if you haven't watched the reaction video I did, go back to youtube.com/SuperJoePardo, check it out there for the Dynosafe. I'm here with Rebecca, who gave her pitch on Shark Tank, for anyone just joining us on the live stream. They've really kind of personified you as being nervous, right? As an editor, as a storyteller, you're always looking for the story, right? And it doesn't matter if it's sports, it doesn't matter what the thing is. We're always looking for the story and the video to help tell that story, even if we have to kind of fake that a little bit to like, manipulate the video. So it sounds like, well, he said what like 4 times. It's like, no, he said what once. And we made it into a thing all of a sudden that it wasn't so like he was getting angry, by changing his voice modulation and all, like it just like he was raising his voice. But, it's just one of those things that, do you, was the nervousness real for you?
Oh, it is. Gosh, if there's people on here from high school, because I invited a bunch of people to join us today, but I was in the high school play and forgot my one line. It's just I'm nervous. I think I'm ADD a bit, and so it's my brain is 3 different places. So when you walk in front of people and you see somebody, maybe roll their, but they're thinking about something completely else. But you know what? That killed me. So changing things right before we go out made it very difficult for me to continue. I'm someone who prepares, and if you change something just before I'm to do something, it's hard for me to move on with that. Yes, I was incredibly nervous. Oh my gosh, I am so surprised I didn't just turn around after I messed up and run out the door. I would have been the first to do that, I think. But I was thinking that, and I think my husband was going, "Are you bolting? Are you? What's going on?" Because I was just like,
"Oh, that would have been terrible." Because with COVID, no one would have came after you.
Yeah, right.
No one like none of that. Robert wouldn't have got up and been like, let me go talk to her. Like, I'll get her back here.
Yeah.
It'll be all right. Like he would have been like, okay.
Yeah. And because you can see it on TV, one of the things I was very much afraid of was doing the ugly cry. It's like, because I cry easily. And I was just like, oh my gosh, don't let that be me. So I'm glad that didn't happen.
Well, there's a lot of powerful stories, and I know I've read like when you go on the show, you walk down the hall and then you just stand there for 10, 12, 20 minutes, half hour. And they're just filming, because they got to get all the angles, right? Like, I've filmed my own TV show, and I remember when we went there, we showed up to the house to help Sandra with her business, and I was there until I got there at 8. We filmed until noon before we even really, or almost noon, and before I even really started to have a conversation with her, because we were doing all the B-roll, the outside of the house, getting the car coming down the street with the drone, and doing all these things, and it was me and one other person filming the whole thing. So it's just I couldn't be there to just walk up and be like, oh, hey, how you doing? Like, now we're going to talk. Like, it's a whole lot of work. Now we have a couple of questions come in here. Joshua asks, I have a question for her. Do you have plans on implementing any of the newer security technologies like NFC? Which NFC is not really that new. It's kind of like Bluetooth being new, but Bluetooth's really existed since 2000, 2001. In fact, I remember reading an article about how that was dead on arrival when it first came into like my Motorola V700 or whatever phone I had. So would you like to take a crack at his...
Yeah, Joshua, that's a great question. And it's one thing I think on the show that they were trying to point out is, I had a prototype up there, and they were talking about the lock and how it's already outdated. Well, it's a prototype. Actually, they're lucky it didn't have duct tape around the box. That's what a prototype is. And, so I had to defend myself with that. It's not about the lock. I'm going to, it's about the hardware itself. It doesn't matter what kind of lock is on it. So putting tomorrow's lock on my container is still going to be protected by my patent. So as he was saying, coming up with saying, oh, it's going to do this, the lock is going to have all of these tech capabilities. If it's outdated tomorrow, you can change those out and just update it. It's still going to be protected by my patent. So in the long story, it essentially comes down to the retailer's choice. And, some retailers are going to maybe want to roll this out as a subscription model to their customers. And what does that container look like? Is it larger? Is it smaller? Is it a typical large order from a certain big box store? Or is it, another big box store that it's usually a smaller order when you get 2 or 3 of them from that one. So they're going to have different designs. And so the container you end up on with your porch is going to be a reflection of where you shop. So what kind of lot, what kind of size, what size are your orders? It's gonna be an interesting process, and I'm excited about it.
Well, I think that's awesome. I think that, the patent aspect is awesome. But I do have a question myself, because one thing I've always wondered about on the patent side. Well, I have at least one friend in the patent office in DC. And is at a certain point, does it end up becoming harder to defend the patent than it's, like, not say worth having, but it becomes as hard as it's worth having, because, like, your patent's defending anything that has a box that's temperature controlled with a lock on it.
Right.
I mean,
for end use, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that literally, like, if I put a fridge out on my front porch, and put a patent lock on it, is that technically?
No, it has to be
No.
IoT smart, right? It has to be
Okay.
IoT. So it has to be a smart container that is temperature or climate controlled. And it's for end use. So, you can definitely have a container out there that isn't temperature controlled, that is smart. That's not my patent. That's fine. You can have one that is temperature controlled that's not smart. It's the fact that you have those two things together is my patent. And, I started in 2017, and I guess it's just my personality. The first thing I had to do was a ton of research, and then hire a great patent team to write it the right way and make sure it was strong. I'm surprised as everybody else that there wasn't already something patented that had those elements together. But it's 2017, so it's before Amazon purchased Whole Foods, right? Because that really brought the market to, oh my gosh, if Amazon's going to deliver, all the grocery stores have to start delivering too. And it was before the pandemic. So, timing for me was, very fortunate that I had this passion since when my husband was in Afghanistan to do something with this idea.
And and with that said, I do want to thank you and your husband for the service that both of you have given to the country. So thank you for that. And also, do you have twins? Is that what I see behind you?
Oh my gosh, yes. They're getting their driver's license. It's, yeah, that's an old picture. I know. Oh my gosh, you talk about nervous. It's been a year. It's crazy. But yeah, they're awesome.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, no, I was quite surprised that but hey, somebody's got to think of everything, right? And there's just, it's not even just thinking about it, but then actually going through the trouble to get, and all the work and the effort and the money to go and get the patent, right?
Right. And then you have to have, a team of people that help you with this. So, I mean, if it weren't for my husband, who's so supportive and, just encouraged me, it's a great idea and let's do this. And I had a prior business. I sold that. We used those funds. So when I talk about the funds on Shark Tank, oh my, 500,000, it's like, but I had a prior business that I sold. It's like, we actually do have money in our bank. We're not that bad off, but but that's the drama. They have to build that up. But having a group of people around you who believe in you, who believe in what you're doing, we'll do those things that you're not able to do because you're so focused on working on this. It's incredible. Finding, I'm very fortunate. I believe my relationship with God has a lot to do with this because I really pray about people in my life and, paying attention to honest, truthful people and, those that make you not feel so good, and trying to discern. So with that, I've been fortunate to take the right steps and try to follow that path. And, it's been a long process, especially with coronavirus, slowing everything down. But, there's been a couple of really bad experiences, but for the most part, it's been something I believe we were meant to do, and it's happening.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I love the fact that, you've been able to partner up with the right people and put the right people around you to be able to believe it. Because there's so many people out there that just will tear literally anything down and be like, oh, no, that's dumb. That probably has already been thought of. It probably is already, and it's like, well, if you just, take an hour to do some Googling, or not even an hour, sometimes just 5-10 minutes, and you'll find apparently nobody said it. Maybe I need to be that person,
Yeah.
to take that step.
One of the things I read today on an old something I was interviewed a couple of years ago about, local Scottsdale woman comes up with this patent, and it was the beginning of it. And it's still, I don't want to call it viral. It's, thousands of hits and comments. And today I was just kind of going back through that. And there was one comment, and the person said, there must have been a man that did this for her, or, whatever. And I'm just like, wait. I have to comment on this because, how dare you? It's like, really? Shoot, the patent is in my name. Yes, my husband is incredibly supportive, and I'm completely honest to say I never would have done this without him, because he does give me that confidence to go ahead and take that step. I mean, when you're spending $40,000 at a time on engineering and things like that, I need my husband to say, yeah, go ahead, we can do this. That's the right thing to do, But, so people do have these out of perspective comments and thoughts. And, I hope to be a part of awareness education that says, women can do this too. And there have been a couple that have tried to take advantage of me because I'm a woman, and I can say that it's true. But you know what? You don't wallow in that. You pick up and you move on. And you can't fix everybody. So, yeah.
I totally agree. You can't fix everybody, and that, but I love the fact that you want to be an example to other, girls and women that aspire to do the things that they want to do, especially own their own business, and not only to own their own business, but then have the privilege to be able to sell it to somebody else and have it live on past you is awesome. And I don't mean you live past you as in like you die, but just live past you as in you're not there anymore. Like it's not yours, right? And and to me, I think that is a really powerful message that more women need to hear in order to feel empowered, and because they might have a bunch of those people in the people in the comments around them that are saying that same thing, but not saying it in the comments. They're saying it to their face. Or they're saying it with their actions, right? They're saying
Absolutely.
it with belittling, making smaller, and really it's a shame because there's ideas everywhere, right? Ideas are not gender or ethnicity based. I mean, I'm not going to come up with hair products for women of color, probably, but maybe I would if I was surrounded by those people and I was like, oh, there's a problem, let me help see if I can solve this, right? But just you have to be able to see that there's just it's a shame that people have that that philosophy in their life, that maybe they've been beaten down to that level to feel like they can't do it. And I know I just said I can't do that, but I just said I have to be around the right people, right? And we just thought about surrounding ourselves around the right people to enable those types of things to happen, those ideas to come to fruition, those experiences to come out and be a different, to be a differentiator in people's lives.
Right.
Did you have something you wanted to?
Oh, so you know what? You hit it. It's the experiences of a person. So male, female, it doesn't matter. The fact my father was in the Navy, I lived in places like Guam, through typhoons, and in South Texas, hurricanes, Bermuda hurricanes, and you go through experiences that really do shape you. But it also builds character. It builds those experiences is I guess part of your wisdom. And so I think we have a tendency as women to some women to look at things and be more compassionate, empathetic, that kind of thing. And men are in our society are kind of brought up to, don't ever cry and that kind of thing. And so we all have our different experiences, and I think when it comes to creativity, it's definitely revealing what you've been through in your life, is what you're seeing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell a quick story. My son, in his class, they only have like 4 kids in his class. They got a new kid, and the kid was crying, and he went up and gave that kid a hug. That Logan, I think his name was Logan. He went up and gave Logan a hug, and asked him if he was okay. And my son's 3. So like so I encourage things like that, because I think it's important that he understand his feelings, and kind of like the Mr. Rogers approach, right? Like, you have to understand the feelings, and then we can, then we can figure out what to do with them, not just suppress, because suppress is not necessarily a good idea.
We need to demonstrate that. I mean, I don't think it's some children, if they see that you don't react when you see someone fall and you don't make a move to help that person up, they're going to see that's what I should do. So, I mean, we definitely need to be demonstrating that in everything we do. And, call it kindness, call it whatever, but it definitely is, if you have an opportunity and the ability to do something right, to make a difference, then you have the obligation to do that, in my opinion. And I have the ability, and my experiences lead me to solve a real problem. A person who has diabetes in Arizona, and they leave her medicine on the front porch, and it's 115. And then that person calls and says, "Hey, is it still safe for me to use?" I'm a registered nurse, and I'm just like, no one should have to ask that. And I couldn't imagine if it was my child and I couldn't afford to get more medicine. Do I give it? Do I, I mean, we are further along than that this problem shouldn't be here anymore.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. There's a couple other questions here in the chat. Joshua asked, do you have any plans to make a larger size, closer to the size of the model we saw on TV?
Yeah, so size, styles, those kind of things. We're going to start out, our first release is going to be kind of a mid-size, and we're going to, introduce that first. But we do know there's going to be a smaller unit, and then a larger unit. Again, it's going to come down to what your habits are, where you normally shop. So one thing we all know is when you go to Walmart typically has the largest number of items in your basket when you're ordering or shopping from them. So if that's where you shop, you probably will end up wanting a larger container. We are very focused on making sure it fits on the average porch as well. So there will be different sizes. We are going to come up with ways that you can change the exterior of it as well, so it matches the design of your home. There's a lot of plans down the pipe.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. Hey, Tim, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Let's see here. On the topic of Amazon, would you entertain selling it to them or partnering with them if they were to approach you?
That's a great question, because I said to you, you didn't listen to the comments after my husband and I left the room.
Hold on, let me just say, you've watched like a lot of the other videos, and it was like that weekend I was like, let me shorten it up, because I was watching the view rate, and it cuts like the retention rate goes down right after somebody says,
because I left the room, right?
Well, no, you know what it is there's usually a bunch of fluff, but like for like 20 seconds before you actually start talking. And that's where it's like the retention goes down. I don't want to start talking because I know that you're going to start talking as the business owner, or the sharks are going to start talking eventually. And then I'm going to be cut off by them, or, so it's just like to make it an easier flow. Because I don't edit these videos. For the full disclosure, I do almost zero editing to those videos, and in a lot of cases, this is the first time I've ever watched that video, or I haven't watched it in years. So, it's one of those things where it's like, all right, let's just try this, and I tried it that week, and of course, you're like, oh, you cut out the part at the end.
It's because I struggled so hard to get them to understand about the patent, and they got fixated on the lock, and it's like, okay, of course, you didn't really see when I explained about the lock, and they changed their tune. But after we left, getting back to the question about Amazon, So we leave the room, and now the sharks are converted because I did finally get to have my words with them, and they. They what they said was, this is going to, if the patent is strong, it's going to be the next ring. And so one of the things from the beginning is I was very aware of what happened to Ring, with Jamie, creating his company and raising money and making iterations, and going on Shark Tank. He didn't get a deal. He ended up getting acquired for $1 billion from Amazon. I don't know how soon after. I don't know how soon after being on Shark Tank, but he was further along in his business than I am. I mean, there's differences, but yeah, to hear them say that, and it was just like, that's a huge endorsement. I think that that's going to happen to me. Who knows? But to hear them say that, the sharks say that, they don't. I don't think that they say things that it's just for fluff, like you said. Yeah. So who knows? I'm open to Amazon. Hello. I'm open right now to all sorts of options.
Yeah, and as you should. I mean, here's a question for you. Is it because what was the company you owned before this?
My husband's a surgeon and I'm a nurse, and I worked in labor and delivery for many years. I have to kind of give that story. So I ended up in the Dallas area, and again at the right time. It's a Medi Spa, and I was able to keep that Medi Spa with only medical people doing any of the procedures and treatments, if you will. And, so many of them are not. And it was a real differentiator. And we ended up being best in Denton County like 3 years in a row. And, very successful. And I was able to sell that when we moved to Scottsdale.
Is it different working in a business that's so large in scope and such a journey, if I may say that,
Yeah.
versus like the day-to-day grind of owning the spa,
Yeah.
right? Cause like that's like, we do services, we collect money, and here it's like we spend money and then we spend money
Spend
and
more
then we
money.
spend money and then we spend money and then we spend
And
money.
we worry.
And we wait and we worry
Yeah.
and we hope
Yeah.
and we work, work towards
Yeah.
it. And then now it's been 4 years, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so like to me, like how do you keep yourself focused and motivated through that? Cause like, obviously that's a different world. I mean, well, going from being a nurse to owning a business is a different world. And then going from a business that's like a traditional type business to a future investment type business is gotta be, it's gotta be wearing on the mind.
It is. There's a lot of differences, and we're talking so much scale wise, so different. The amount of money to spend on making a decision on that, and being confident with it. But as a registered nurse, I think that a lot of nurses innately try to solve problems and want to help people, and so each step I take, I look at the problem and I say, okay, what are my alternatives to work this out? And again, it comes down to being completely transparent, surrounding yourself with people you trust with those experiences. So I recognize what I can do from my prior business and what tools I have, and to the point of what I have never done before. And I don't want to make that decision and have to keep raising more money because it's not the right iteration, or, I did a lot of surveying and a lot of talking to retailers, grocery retailers and customers. So, I did a lot of the in the trenches work before spending money. And so I surround myself. I definitely recognize what I'm good at and the things I need assistance with that I haven't made manufacturing type of decisions before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's awesome that you we're able to get so much feedback prior to going and spending the money, as most people should, right? Like, you shouldn't be jumping, like, just because you have the money doesn't mean you should, throw money at the problem, because that's not necessarily going to fix any problem.
Yeah.
Just chucking money at it. So we have another question here from I guess you pronounce it Sahil. Sahil, did you have a shark that you were looking for when you went into the tank?
Yeah, you know, I did my homework, like I said. So I binge watched all of the episodes and took notes.
I
And
love
then,
that.
and then I looked back and reviewed my notes, and I kind of narrowed down thoughts of who would be a good partner for what I need in next steps. So, and, being from the Dallas area, I just think, Mark Cuban is well-rounded, well-versed, able to, take next steps and make phone calls. But he's manufactured before. He knows about IT, the tech side of it. So he was a good fit. And, being in the Dallas area, I knew a lot about him personally as well. Not too personally, Mark, don't get weird. But, it's
Saying that
like,
in front of his house.
no, I don't want to be that guy. But yeah, but so I had a natural fit for him. So when he was the first to go out, you hear me say, I'm devastated. And I didn't plan that. That was like the air totally went out of my sails at that point.
Yeah, I mean that it is. I mean, you see it all the time where it's like people they clearly show on their face like that they wanted a particular person to work with. You mentioned watching every episode that you possibly could get your hands on leading up to it. Is it surprising to you how few people seem to actually use that as a tactic for doing well on the show? Like, it should be part of like, hey, are we binge watching This Is Us? No, we're watching Shark Tank. What are we binge watching Lord of the Rings? Or no, we're watching Shark Tank. Or we're not doing any of that. We're watching Shark. And if we're not doing work and we're eating dinner, Shark Tank's on. That's the way I would be.
Yep.
Every
Yeah.
opportunity. I'm
Right.
working
Well,
out, I'm watching Shark Tank.
That's right. Exactly. So, I'm making dinner. Shark Tank is on the TV. My 15-year-old twins, so they would come into the room. Oh, you're watching that again? I'm like, no, I'm doing homework. This is my homework right now. So,
ding, ding.
Again, set the example. It's like, you don't just go, you have this incredible opportunity. You don't go with your tool belt, with no tools. And, I had to know, like with Lori, right? She's so kind and she's incredible. She's, and I just had the feeling that she might go out and it's like, so I had done my homework so well that it was like, oh no. Yeah, you have to, and in fact, the sharks get angry. When I watch the episodes I've watched, the sharks get angry if someone's up there and you can tell, do you even watch the show? I mean, it's like, someone else could have been here who really needs the opportunity and would have done their homework. So, yeah.
It's insulting,
it's respect. Yeah.
That's the way I see it is like, if you're not and it's insulting to people who didn't get on the show. It's like, there's, like you said, There's so many people, there's like 40,000 people apply every year. So, for only like less than 100 people to make it through the, the trenches and make it there. And then to have those people be like, yeah, I've never even watched the show before. I just did it because my friend was like, oh, you should totally go on that show. It'd be fun. Yeah, it'll be great. It'll be a wonderful time. Let me tell you.
Well, but I'm also the person that when someone wants to interview me, I know that they get a piece of paper with all my data on it. And I do my homework. So I learn about you. I learn about what else you've done and, those kinds of things. Because again, like you said, it's respect. It's not all about me. It never is all about me. So.
Yeah, I mean, I whenever I get interviewed on other people's shows, I generally at least listen to 15, 20 minutes of one of their episodes, so I at least get an idea, the feel of what's going on. But when I'm being interviewed isn't necessarily an opportunity for me to walk away with $250,000, $250,000, or heck, I mean, it's all relative, right? It doesn't really matter. Like, $40,000 to someone is $1,000,000 to another person,
Yeah.
So it's all relative in that regard. But it just always blows my mind how many people just have not watched the show. So
Yeah.
when you were done, you were free, like after the show, I guess ended tape, you were free to just go, or was there other things that you had to do afterwards? And you don't have to get into the details, obviously. I don't want to pry too hard there, but like, were you put it this way, were you in Vegas for more than like 3 days after after it filmed?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there are really good steps that they have in place for right after you walk out, and they're very necessary. And I really can't talk about them, but just think about a person's psyche after an hour and a half of
standing
trauma,
just literally just standing, right? I mean,
so they have really, and there's some, if you watch the show, there's some people who leave very distraught, and so they do have measures in place of things for you to do, and you have to agree to do before you even go out there. Other than that, you kind of go home, and you're like, it's over. It was the most bizarre thing.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. You felt like it's over? Because my thought would be, this is just beginning. Like, because now I got to market this, like, Shark Tank me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I just all, like, to me, it would just be the beginning.
Right. It is. It's just, you've got the camera. It's sort of like Christmas. I don't know. And so you have this little letdown, like, pew, and I didn't embarrass myself too badly, I hope, but no, I did. I embarrassed myself, but but so you have to go through those stages psychologically of letting that go, being okay with it. And one of the things people do is, after you go through an experience like this, you say, I should have said this. Oh, I wish I had said that. And what you learn is, well, if you had said this, they would have said something else too. So you may not have had a good outcome. So don't beat yourself up about it. What happened, and now you deal with it. And so you have to kind of go through that psychology. And then, yes, I mean, I was making lists. I've got to do this. And I was excited. I was like, let's go. Can't move fast enough.
So how has the press reaction been for you since then, since being on the show? Has the phone been ringing like nonstop, or like how's that? Has it met your expectations of what you thought?
As I shared when I got on the show, when I first spoke with you for a second, is I'm missing an appointment right now, and I'm it gives me such a bad feeling in my.
We appreciate you, and we're all very sorry.
It makes my stomach hurt when I do that. There's been a lot of calls, a lot of opportunities. Like I said, it gave me a lot of exposure. It gave Dynosafe a lot of exposure. So it's going to help us come to market more quickly. The excitement is still there. I can't tell you how incredible it is that I went through this experience with my husband. And for the rest of our lives, we will have this between us. You know what I mean? It's like the pitch we did have memorized. I can say a line, he knows his, and it's like a little dance that we do. And, I mean, how many people get that wonderful experience? Yes, it's traumatic, but I totally walk away with, wow, what a gift.
And that experience may get to live on as a I'm blanking on the word, a syndicated episode on like CNBC or something to be experienced every month to 2 months.
Yes. Yeah. When I least expect it and don't want to see it, there it'll be.
Did you do a watch party for the episode? I mean, I know COVID makes it difficult, but
Yeah, the people I have around me are just incredible. They teams of people, the groups, my marketing, my tech group, just the people I'm fortunate enough to work with. They had watch parties, and yeah, that was fun.
Oh, that's
Exciting.
awesome. That's awesome. Let's see. Joshua says you didn't embarrass yourself as the Ionic ear guy from the very first episode. I admittedly I've never seen any. I know the first season was like different looking. They were like behind a desk or something like that.
Yeah.
But I've never actually watched any of those episodes. I need to go back and find them. Which, let's see, Joe, if you haven't seen that one yet, which I haven't, you have to watch it. It's definitely in the top 5
Yeah.
objectively worst ideas pitched. Okay, so it's like sonar for your ears or something like that.
It was
if I had to
an
guess.
implant that you have to push into your skin, like have surgery, and then you take it out and charge it. I believe, if I'm right, you help me, but and then yeah, after you charge it, you put it back in through a hole that they've made in your. It was just like, I can't believe what I'm hearing. Yeah. And the sharks were
Wow.
like that too, going, "Are you kidding me?"
I
Yeah.
think I missed to do a drum rim shot there. Let's see. Red Moon Travis says it's a brilliant idea. I'm guessing that you're talking about we're having the tank tales here with previous Shark Tank business owners on the show. I hope that's what you're talking about, not the Ionic or Bionic ear guy.
No, I know who that is. He actually wrote some music for me for one of my videos, and yeah, it's great to see you, Rob.
Oh, well, thank you. And it is good to see you. Make sure you get subscribed. Smash that like button. I don't know, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm so you can get this video into the hands of more people. You charge it by sticking a giant needle in your ear at night. There is no way that's happening
Yeah.
around me. He also said it was top 2, that and the Sullivan generator would be there. The Sullivan it rings a bell, but I'm not sure without Googling it.
And I believe, because I did my homework, correct me if I'm wrong, Joshua, but I think that's the one where he could make gold out of the ocean by some kind of centripetal force machine, and they were like gold. I feel for these people. It's like great ideas, if only.
Yeah. Well, here you go. This is there's the Eisenhower matrix. If you're not familiar with that, get on that. But yeah, this is the machine here that they're going. Yeah, sorry, I remember this. It was from season 3.
Yeah, early
the
on.
Ionic ear. So yeah. I did pretty much all of season 2. Oh yeah, the Euro Club. That was a classic. That was a classic for sure.
And part of the history, if you look at Shark Tank history, Mark brought in some tremendous changes in how Shark Tank evolved from season 1. I don't think he was in season 1 or 2. I think he joined in 3, and by 4 he had really implemented a lot of really positive changes.
Yeah,
So.
he definitely seems to be even though he's off to the side in the show, he definitely seems to be a driving force behind the show and keeping the show moving forward. But yeah. Rebecca, I don't want to take up too much of your time here. I mean, obviously it's 5 o'clock here on the East Coast and almost dinner time. Get kids ready heading towards bedtime for me. So I appreciate you coming here on the first ever Shark Tank Tales to tell your story and expand. Was there anything that I didn't get to ask that you wanted to share?
Gosh, no, just, I think, like I said, if we could show a little more compassion and kind of be more thoughtful, and, I think we'll come up with more ideas that are fantastic. And so, if I could encourage a couple of things, it's do what we can for our veterans, and, try not to, or encourage, if you have an opportunity to lift people up, like women entrepreneurs, women in tech, founders that are women. I mean, because it's like, what, 2% is women. And so instead of taking opportunities to say, oh, she must have had a man helper, you know, it's like, can't you just celebrate that, you know? I mean, I'm not, I guess I consider myself a bit of a nerd, but I don't lift people up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember one of my friends, Polly Bauer. If you're not familiar with her, you should check her out. She's the credit card queen. She was the CEO of the Home Shopping Network's credit department back in the '90s. And when I
Wow.
introduced her at my conference, I was like, so we have a real life unicorn in our in our presence, because how many CEOs that were there that were female at
Yeah.
such big, especially on the big bigger end companies
Yeah.
that were female, like that is awesome. So it's always great to see a diversity, right? Diversity breeds ideas, that breeds change, that breeds everybody getting what they ultimately getting what they want.
Right.
So so I was at LOL, so not a nerd. And I will draw you a cat. Was
I
that the
will draw
one
a cat. I will draw a cat for you.
Yes,
Beep, 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 beep. Okay, everybody just saw me dance. That's great.
yes, ding ding. No, I think there's a lot more room for compassion, and I've said it in the past, in my Facebook at least, and Twitter, about like some of these negative comments that have even come here on this channel, and to me it's just an opportunity to tell them that I appreciate them for watching and for commenting, because even though they had nothing positive to say about it, whether I'm stupid or whatever and all, you know what? They're still helping the channel grow because they left a comment, and I appreciate them.
And most of the time with negative comments, it's ignorance. But I know that word sounds harsh, but it just means you're lacking a little experience, wisdom, information. So when I see negative comments, I ask myself, can I enlighten him or her? Can I change this? And most times it's, they just choose to be bigoted or, whatever it may be. And it's like, just let it go. Don't hold on to that, right? It's not me, just let it go. But there are some negative comments. It's just like, so I can't tell you how many times I've heard this. So it's just a box with a lock. And I'm like, okay, look, are you choosing not to listen? No. So it's like,
I'm actively, because that's terrible.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah. So, right.
Yeah. Hey, you look, when I started my podcast back in 2014, I got introduced a couple of times. It's like, oh, here's Joe, and he has his show. It's called The Dreamcast. It's this little show called The Dreamcast. And I was like, no, it's the Dreamers Podcast, and it's a little show. So I appreciate you telling somebody, but that's not how you want to introduce somebody. It's not a good foot to start this conversation out on.
Good intentions, but still.
yeah. But you know what? It's just that it's always an opportunity for us to show the world how we're going to react to it, and to just show appreciation, right? Like the whole turn the other cheek thing. Look, there's a hater's gonna hate. I say hater's gonna be hugged. That's what it is, right? Because they need a hug, and if not for them, your response isn't for them. It's for somebody else to read and feel like, you know what, that's good. Now, with that said, I still listen to Kanye West and do feel myself when I'm wanting to feel confident in the fact that, like, you know what, no, we are doing it, we're out there, we're doing it, and these other people, they aren't doing it. So don't mistake the kindness and the wanting to be appreciative of everybody and wanting people to feel good about themselves too, and the whole super thing, because it's all about bringing the super out of you. That's not all, there's a mental aspect to it to keep myself sane and keep myself motivated and moving too.
Yeah.
Oh, here you go. No, it's a fridge with a lock. LOL.
I've heard that a lot. It's like, okay, I've heard, save yourself some money. Just go to Home Depot and get and put a lock on it, or a dorm fridge and put a lock on it. It's like, okay, now if you think about that process, how many times can a person open it to get a delivery? You've got a lock on it. So in my case, you can receive a lot of deliveries. They all have different codes. They all open. Anyway, it's just, I think there are many people who want to just say, look at something negative. How can I tear this apart? But we need people like that too, because that's how I can try to make myself better, is paying attention to someone being critical. But there's being critical and then there's being mean.
Yeah, well, yeah. I was just thinking, what you just said made me think of after hours deliveries for, say, like a pharmacy or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So they could still collect that delivery after the fact, because not,
Right.
UPS doesn't always show up during work hours, or Amazon deliveries,
Yeah.
or whatever, delivery service doesn't always show up on, in a time, and especially if you're not like a CVS where you're like, oh, we're open till 10 o'clock anyway.
Yeah.
You're a local pharmacy and you're open till 5, 6, but
Right.
FedEx might not get there till 7 or 8 or 9.
That's right.
The opportunity for that too.
Yeah. And if you've been at home with a sick child and you need Tylenol, and then you have to take the child with you to, no one wants to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can have a delivery. The thing about Dynosafe, what it's going to do for grocery is it's going to take all those. If you look around when traffic is bad, how many of those are cars delivering groceries, trucks delivering something, right? So if you have the ability to deliver groceries before 6 a.m., look at it. It's going to make an
for like
impact.
restaurants where I don't have to
Right.
get up at 6 o'clock. I don't have to be there at 6
Yeah.
a.m. anymore because the veggie guys come in, with the veggie truck, or
Right.
as we call them, hucksters here in Philly. And my great grandfather was a huckster here in Philly, and it's like, oh, just here, put it in the safe. Like just drop the
That's right.
drop the veggies in there. They'll stay chilled, and I can come in at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
The return.
Whatever.
It's called the return of the milkman.
Yes. Ding, ding. So, Rebecca, thank you so
Sure.
much. How can everybody get in touch with you? Go to your website, Facebook, whatever you want to plug. Please do so.
Okay, yeah. Just go to dynosafe.com. That's DYNO safe.com. And we have a survey, and there's a place that you could leave your email. And as we grow and start to come to market, you'll be one of the first to hear about it. Stay up to date.
Yes, you absolutely should. Brought the site up here. Where is the survey part of the wait list?
Yes, if you go to that area, there'll be it's like 5 questions, and it just kind of tells us, it gives me information that I can take to a retailer and say, hey, look, this is how many people in this zip code who want one of these, and say that they'll order more if they had one. Help me bring this to you. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Has the response been good? Have you been happy with the responses?
Oh, really great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. No negatives. No negative people on my. Yeah, they're all good. They're all good.
No, they're too busy leaving comments on the bottom of my videos.
Yeah. Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, oh, you're just encouraging people to be lazy.
What? What?
Oh, that's right.
Lazy.
Yeah, just go to the store yourself. All right.
Oh, okay. That's always a convenient thing, especially in the days of COVID. Oh well, I was around people. I was around people that was tested positive. Should I be walking around outside?
Yeah.
Walking in the stores and stuff, breathing around people? Probably not.
Yeah. No,
So.
90% of people who currently order groceries online are expected to continue to do so. So it's not something that's going to go away after the pandemic.
I remember we were ordering groceries when I was living with my dad back in like 02, 03 from like Acme. I don't know. I mean, if you're familiar with Acme here, the supermarket, but they had it back then, you could order online. And then it seemed like it went away for a while, and then it came back with ShopRite, like kind of brought it back from the dead, maybe like 5-6 years ago. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it's not going away. And even with just having kids and going to the grocery store, like it's so inefficient to go to the grocery. I rarely go to the grocery store. My wife would normally go, but even just having somebody like take it out to you, if you don't pay for delivery, even just doing that aspect of it is so much more efficient to just for $5, or if you can't, it's so inefficient. But anyway, that's a whole different story from a whole different day. Rebecca, thank you so much for being here with us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. You're welcome back anytime you have anything to promote, anytime you want to, just even if you just want to have a talk, have a chat. I would love to. I'd even love to have you on as a guest biz coach if you'd be interested in doing some Shark Tank videos.
That would be a lot of fun. I'd like that a lot. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, everyone, please feel free to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm so we can get this video into the hands of more super entrepreneurs like yourself. Get subscribed so you don't miss any more Biz Coach Reacts videos. And yeah, and drop some more comments below. We'd appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And tomorrow I have a preview video for next week's Shark Tank video coming out. So make sure you come back tomorrow at noon for that. All the products you can get them before everybody else finds out about them.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Take care.